Hello, Patrick. Welcome to the Needham channel. First, can you tell me a little bit about yourself? Who is Patrick Gatto?
Sure, yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's good to be here. I'm a Needham guy, right? Fifth generation Needham guy. I have a small family business here for 75 years. Not 75 years me, right? I'm only 44, so. But it was my grandfather's and then my dad's. Now I'm the owner of it. It's real estate and insurance, and that's based on relationships, right? We have a high retention rate, and we pride ourselves on customer service. And I grew up in Needham working on a lot of the democratic causes that a lot of folks around town did. My dad was a political organizer. When I was born in Baltimore, he was organizing tenants against slumlords and pioneered a lot of the grassroots tactics that people do around the country these days. Mm-hmm. I was 0 then, so I wasn't doing any work then, but he was doing those types of things. He worked for Mayor Ray Flynn, and he worked for Joe Kennedy's second, not the third. Political activism has been part of my DNA since I was little.
Your website highlights an extensive experience of campaigning and lobbying. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I've been active around town, knocking doors with Habitat for Humanities. I think maybe it's the only Habitat house in Needham we helped do up. It's over by the Mitchell School, going around talking to people about how, it's not, no one even knows it's there. At the time, we had to talk to a lot of NIMBYs about, it's not, this bad thing that you think it is. And we do a lot of that work. We did Needham Opportunities, Inc., and we did a lot of the duplexes up Linden Chambers to change those and, give people a hand up instead of a hand out. It was one of the things that was pioneered there, was the idea that current housing tenants could buy a home, right, which is a new opportunity for them, and really helps people get up and get out of housing if they have that sort of opportunity. So I've worked for Green Needham, Progressive Needham, Habitat for Humanities, Affordable Housing, Needham Opportunities, Inc., League of Women Voters, Rotary Club, and a bunch of others, and still know a bunch of those folks around town, good Democratic folk. I worked down in D.C. for Catherine Clark on our legislative staff, doing constituent services, lobbyist meeting, and federal legislation. I worked for a national political consulting firm doing legislative initiatives across the country for Fortune 50 companies and political candidates and other advocacy campaigns. I'm a former town meeting member, former finance committee member, and the only candidate who's a current Democratic town committee member. And I worked for NARAL Pro-Choice America in the Trump years to help flip the House blue on him to stem some of the more egregious work that was happening against reproductive freedom. With a bunch of other progressive organizations during that time, by throwing everything we could at it, endorsing candidates, making calls, fundraising for them, turning out people to their events, and we did legislation too, ghostwriting legislation, supporting bills, doing pass-through phone calls, organizing rallies. So I've done rallies at the Supreme Court, done rallies on the Capitol lawn, as well as working inside the Capitol.
What have you learned from your past extensive political experiences of campaigning and lobbying?
Mm-hmm. It's relationships, right? First and foremost, it's relationships, and that's true in business, but it's true in politics too, right? You've got to be able to understand strategy, be able to hold your gunpowder until when you need it, design a plan and get supporters and build coalitions. None of it's necessarily brain surgery or, earth-shattering stuff, but, being in those circles and being in those rooms and, doing that work, you learn sort of how to do it, right? You understand, who the players are, how you can accomplish your goals. You understand the strategy. You make mistakes through the years, right? And you learn from those mistakes. But I think, I have a good understanding of what it takes to navigate it.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think is the key factor in making a successful advocacy?
Well, success, right? But as far as, putting it together, understanding the target, understanding what it takes for success, right? And doing a lot of work in advance of ever tipping your hat to the public or the opposition, so by the time that you launch, you have a pretty good chance of success. And there's, a strategic aspect to that. I think one of the things that I bring to that is conflict resolution. I have a master's degree in conflict resolution from Creighton Law, and it's a lot about interpersonal dynamics and how to talk to people and how to get to yes and things like that. So I use that in my business. I use it with my kids. I use it all the time. It'd certainly be useful on Beacon Hill. That type of mentality of what is it that connects us more than divides us? What unites us more than divides us? Is a mentality that I bring to a lot of stuff that I do, right? And I think it's a different mentality than a lot of folks use, even on Beacon Hill and certainly around the country, right? But if you have that mentality, you're able to get more of the proverbial pie, and you preserve the relationship for the next time around, which is very important up on Beacon Hill.
And you live currently you live in Needham with your family.
Yeah, my wife and 2 kids. We're right here. My office is just downtown across from the town hall, so my commute is about a 10-second walk, which is much better than my commute from Baltimore to Washington when I was taking the MARC train an hour every day to work on legislative staff for Catherine. So.
And what inspired you to run this time?
Public service is something that's important to me. I've seen public servants who are in it for the right reasons and public servants that maybe aren't in it for the best reasons, right? And I see a lot of the work that needs to be done, and we can talk about specific issues, but we need people who are in it for the right reasons. The level of discord, throughout the nation, and even here sometimes, is tough, right? And a lot of that, I think, can be overcome if we have people who are in it for the right reasons. It's about giving people a hand up instead of a hand out, right? So just my experience and my understanding and my values and my track record of success, I think qualifies me well to be very effective in the seat and build off the good work that's been done and bring some new vision and some new energy to expand it.
And what are some of the top issues you want to address if elected?
I think we have to temper expectations with reality, right? When you get up to Beacon Hill as a first-term rep, you don't get to pick and choose exactly what you're going to do, right? But in a perfect world, if we could, certainly I believe that climate change is a defining issue not of our generation, but our civilization. And I think we need to address money in politics, which is like a big elephant in the room. Teachers are heroes. We need to back them and help them. I'm a public school guy, Needham Public Schools, UMass Boston undergrad, and they are heroes. My mom was a teacher for 40 years, GED, Head Start, public, private, so we need to just, make sure that education continues to, be a top quality thing here in Massachusetts. That's in a perfect world. In the real world, when I get up to the State House, there'll be a first-term rep, and, that needs to be tempered to what I'll be able to do. One of my short-term goals is making as many relationships as possible up there. I already know a bunch of people in leadership from my work around the Commonwealth, which I think gives me a little bit of a leg up to hit the ground running up there. But that's one of my immediate short-term goals is just build those relationships. So when we have the ask and we have the need, we have the existing infrastructure relationship-wise to go knock on the door of leadership and say, hey, how can we work on this? And another first-term goal for me is the budget. Digging in deep on the budget, getting intimately familiar with it, because that's a lot of what happens up there. So we need, to definitely know that forwards and backwards. And, part of that process would be increasing local aid. That's one of my short-term goals as first-term rep, good first-term goal.
What do you want your constituents to know about the areas that you are concerned and you will always keep an eye out for?
I think it's going to be different town to town, right, in this district. And I want to be in constant communication with the town boards and town people, have an open door policy. And I think, whatever the issues of today are, affordable housing, climate, education, small business, those may change over time, right? And we have to be responsive to that and hear what, people are feeling. So, those are the issues. But then, just regularly on the constituent service side, you got to understand that, people often need help, right? And the things that they're navigating aren't always very hard. Sometimes they're very complicated. You have to read legislation or talk to certain people or get an ombudsman involved or whatever the case may be. But oftentimes they come to you as the stop of last resort, right? And you use the power of the office to be able to help them. So just want them to know that I'm with them. I got them, whatever they need, I'm going to be there for them.
Are there any ideas or proposals you want to share with the audience regarding how to address affordable housing, climate, and the issues that you just mentioned?
Sure. On the affordable housing front, we have the MBTA Communities Act, and where that sits right now for Needham is that the process has gone through the home board and it's gone back up to the state. They're going to review it and then send it back down with either approval or not. It'll need to be tweaked. It needs to go to the planning board before it will even go to town meeting. So it's in the process of being finalized, and obviously we need more housing stock, right? That's something in Massachusetts that the legislature agrees on. We here at Massachusetts know that too, right? So it's a very important issue. The affordable housing piece of it that I'm sort of keeping an eye on too is the Affordable Homes Act, which is happening at the legislature's $1 billion investment that's going to create 40 to 60,000 affordable units across the Commonwealth in a short time, which is different than the MBTA Communities Act, which is not necessarily an affordable bill, right? It's just a stock bill, which is good. With affordable housing, we need to throw the kitchen sink at it, right? The proverbial kitchen sink. So that will help, certainly.
What about climate change?
Climate change, we've done a lot of good work. There's been 2 good bills passed recently, and, we've been working on it locally as well as at the state level. We need to do more faster, right? Our 2035 and 2050 deadlines are approaching. I'd like to see us go faster, but we have to actually make sure we get our actors who are needing to meet those commitments on board and getting them to do. I think we're dragging behind a little bit. So I'd like to, get them involved, bring them on board, make sure we're getting that, and then push the time frame up, right? Because, the longer it goes, the worse we are.
Talking about affordable housing, what are your thoughts on charging a transfer fee on high-value properties? This is included in Governor Maura Healey's version of a housing bond bill, but was removed by both the Senate and the House.
Yeah, I think the realtors were the ones, the Realtors Association, to my understanding, are the ones that lobbied to have that pulled out. I'm supportive, right? I mean, affordable housing is huge. The idea that those funds were going to be earmarked for affordable housing or education, it's like, as I said, teachers are heroes, right? Affordable housing is a big issue that we need to address. I know that some people take issue with the 1 million threshold or the 3 million, and that can be debated, but I had wished that, it had continued and it didn't get stripped out.
And the millionaire's tax, which was approved by Massachusetts voters in 2022, has generated $1.8 billion in the past fiscal year to be invested specifically in education and transportation. I want to hear your thoughts on how to spend this money to improve our transportation and education system.
Yeah, I mean, there was a good idea. I supported it then. I support it now. Teachers need funding, right? And I know there's a lot of towns around, not necessarily in our district, but otherwise that are hurting for funding due to various changes in the budget and percentages and special ed and things like that. So I think we should use some of that money to fill some of those gaps. Towns are hurting out there. As far as transportation, I don't know exactly what exactly we would use, but I know we could use a little bit of help on some of the transportation. When I used to live in the North End, I'd wait for a long time for the Orange Line or the Green Line, or a train would be broken, so I think there's certainly room for improvement.
Are there anything else you want to share with the audience regarding your candidacy?
I'm the legislating guy in this race, right? I'm the constituent service guys in this race. I'm the guy who's from here in this race. I'm the small business owner in this race. I'm the public school guy in this race. I'm the one who's done the work in Washington in this race and around the country and around the towns, right? If they set me up there, I'm gonna do my best to deliver, and I have a track record and known commodity of success. So I think experience should count for something, right? And I think I would deliver well to the constituents and to the district, and I hope they'll consider me on September 3rd.
All right. Thank you so much, Patrick, for coming and talking to me today, and I wish you good luck.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.